The KL High Court sentenced Datuk Seri Najib Razak to 12 years imprisonment and fined him 210 million ringgit. This after finding him guilty of all 7 charges of abuse of power, criminal breach of trust and money laundering in relation to 42 million ringgit belonging to SRC International. Justice Muhammad Nazlan Ghazali sentenced the Pekan MP to 12 years in jail and 210 million ringgit fine on 1 count of abuse of power, 10 years each on the 3 CBT charges, and 10 years each on the 3 counts of money laundering. The jail terms are to run concurrently. If Najib fails to pay the fine, he can be subject to another 5 years in jail. The judge said the sentence was appropriate and proportionate, as Najib had committed the crime from a position of trust as PM. He also noted the importance of public interest and the need for enforcement to deter offenders. Najib still faces 4 more criminal trials, including the 1MDB tenor trial and the 1MDB audit tampering case. It's a day of records for Bursa Malaysia, which reported its highest ever quarterly net profit, 86.2 million ringgit in the second quarter, up 86% from last year. The result was expected by analysts, who are seeing the company make its way to the best year since listing on higher activities in both the securities and derivatives markets. The bourse operator approved a quarterly dividend of 17 cents per share, also its highest ever. Quarterly revenue, meanwhile, jumped 45% to 179.8 million ringgit. The extraordinary quarter brought Bursa's first half results to its best since its listing in 2005. Earnings stood at 151 million ringgit, up 62% from a year earlier, as revenue came in 32% higher at 330.5 million ringgit. Chief Executive Officer Datuk Muhammad Umar Swift says, Bursa's efforts to increase market vibrancy and liquidity are having a positive impact. Retail investors have been flooding the market, and trading volume hit an all-time high of 12.5 billion on July 25th. Muhammad Umar says the emergence of millennials in the marketplace is also very encouraging, and Bursa will continue to work on expanding its offerings for the new generation of investors. Bursa's share price hit a new record high of 10 ringgit and 98 cents earlier today, before ending the day 3% lower at 10 ringgit 10 cents for a market cap of 8.6 billion ringgit. Malaysia saw its largest ever trade surplus in June, as exports to China, the US and Hong Kong rebounded. The country's trade surplus widened by 98.7% to 20.9 billion ringgit, the largest since October 2019, when it stood at 17.3 billion ringgit. According to the Department of Statistics, exports bounced back to book an 8.8% improvement to 82.9 billion ringgit in June. This as Malaysia registered more overseas sales of electrical and electronic goods, rubber products, palm oil and palm oil-based agriculture products, optical and scientific equipment, and machinery, equipment and parts. Meanwhile, imports declined by 5.6% to 62 billion ringgit due to a fall in petroleum products, transport equipment and crude petroleum. Total trade expanded by 2.2% to 144.8 billion ringgit. Malaysia recorded 39 new COVID-19 infections today, pushing the total number of current patients to 212. According to Health Director General Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah, of the 39 new cases today, 28 were local transmissions, 22 were Malaysians, while 6 cases were non-citizens. Of the 22 Malaysians, 19 cases were detected in Sarawak. Nur Hisham also announced 2 new COVID-19 clusters. One emerged in Kedah, where a Malaysian permanent resident violated his home quarantine order upon his return, and the other originated from a wet market in Satok, Sarawak. Today's figures bring the total number of cases to 8,943. The death toll remains at 124. Key Alliance Group, The largest shareholder of XOX is converting its 248.6 million irredeemable convertible preference shares in XOX to an equal number of new ordinary shares to reaffirm its commitment as a strategic partner to XOX and major shareholder in the company. The conversion will be made at 5 cents for each ICPS. In a statement to Bursa Malaysia today, Key Alliance said its directors wish to increase the company's position in its XOX investment in light of recent developments concerning XOX's new substantial shareholder and its expansion into microfinancing. As at December 31st, 2019, Key Alliance already owned 99.3 million shares or a 9.09% stake in XOX. The company's total number of issued shares then was 1.09 billion units.